What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dissect That Film podcast, where we dissect your favorite films, film franchises, and TV. Today, on episode 90 of the podcast, we are talking about the 2022 mega hit, getting all the accolades right now, the wild everything, everywhere, all at once. I'm your host, Brett Parker. Joining me, as always, the wonderful Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming.
Hello.
And joining us is a legend of the podcasting world, the host of Two Peas on a Podcast, friend of the show, Gerald. Welcome.
Right, you're so sweet, man. What'd you say? What'd you say? Legend of podcasting? What you say?
Legend of the podcasting world.
I don't know if that doing this forever it equals legend, but I really appreciate it, man.
You're a legend.
You're one of my favorites, dude, and I'm happy to finally be on the show.
Well, we are happy to finally have you here, and thank you for. I mean, we've been letting guests pick the movies, and it's been an experience. We've had some really fun ones. We've had some ones that have just we've had some mind benders, and this is in the mind benders category. But I personally love this movie, so thank you for choosing this, because it's always fun when Dan and Angela get to experience something for the first time.
Yes.
Getting to hear their reactions to it.
Yes.
Well, I was going to ask, had you seen it before doing it for the episode or no? No, this is the first time.
This falls outside the realm of film production.
Sure, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. To be honest, I think a lot of the movies that we've covered on the show are first-time watches for a lot for Angela, a lot for both of them as well. So it's always fun when we get to experience these things for the first time. But
I'll be interested to see what they think specifically then, because obviously they're hearing all the hoopla about it, I would imagine, and the awards recognition. So they're kind of coming to it late, first time watch, after kind of having all that hype built up. So it'll be interesting to see, because when I saw it, I mean, I didn't even know what the hell it was. Like, I'd never even really heard anything about it at all, except that it was A24, which is the studio I'm usually a fanboy for. So,
yep.
But yeah, I'm interested to hear their take on it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. We always like to ask, why did you pick this movie?
Well, how fitting. We're recording on the day the Academy Award nominations came out, and it got 11 of them, which is a lot. 11 out of 23 categories they got nominated for. There was even a couple that they probably should have been in, like visual effects, that they didn't make. But this movie, just like I said, I didn't know anything about it when I saw it back in like April or May or whenever it was, and it just really just took me by surprise, because A24 is a studio that does all these really cool indies, like these kind of like quote unquote elevated horror indie films and really weird kind of creepy stuff, which I love all of that stuff. There's very few projects that have come from A24 that I haven't enjoyed. But then you have this movie, Everything Everywhere, was like a little bit of that stuff in there, but it's just such a grandiose story that it's a multiverse story. It's just crazy. Like I said, the effects are awesome. The acting is all top tier. I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis got nominated for this today. This got 4 lead acting nominations today. It's everybody's on their A game. The Daniels, the 2 directors that made this movie, it's such a visionary and like visual story. And it's really emotional. It's got a lot of great action in it, choreography, comedy. Like, it's a really funny movie. And it's, I love a movie called Bones and All, too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. But aside from that, this is probably my favorite movie of 2022. I absolutely champion this film. I love it. And I think it's great that we're recording it today, because everything it got nominated for, I think, is so well deserved.
Well, I guess I don't need to ask you what you thought of this movie, because you pretty much answered that question.
Sorry. Getting ahead, my bad.
Before we jump over to Dan and Angela's opinion on this, Gerald, talk to us a little bit about your little podcast over there, Two Peas on a Podcast.
Man. So, yeah, dude, that's it. It's Two Peas. It was Two Peas in its beginning stages, me and my buddy Andy, and he left me to do real world things, work in hospitals and all kinds of. He has a life. I don't get the guy, but he kind of left me out there on an island. So I said, well, you know what? I'm still one of the Peas, and my other Peas just going to be my guest every week. So I have a different guest host each week. Brett's been on recently, actually. We talked about Steven Spielberg. We'd love to have you guys on, Dan and Angela, if you guys are into it as well. And we have a different guest every week, and we just give a top 5 countdown. So we just pick a subject and we list our top fives respectively in whatever the category is. Like I said, when Brett came on, we did our favorite Spielberg movies, which was a lot of fun. So that's pretty much it. And then I have a YouTube channel that I'm really trying to dedicate a lot more time to. And that's where a lot of my content goes. It's kind of not top fives. It's like, movie reviews, trailer reactions, just obviously the Oscar stuff I talk about on my YouTube channel. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me, man.
Alrighty, awesome. And I will say it now, all of the links to Two Peas on a Podcast will be down in the show notes, aka the description of the video. All right, back to this movie. Let's get the view from Dan and Angela. What did you think of this wild ride?
You have to go first. You have to.
Oh, are you going to follow up with something grand?
No, you just have to go.
Honestly, I hadn't heard any. I didn't even know what this movie was going into it. I'd never heard of it. I didn't look into it, which I like going into a lot of the movies that I've never seen before, not knowing anything about it. I liked seeing Jamie Lee Curtis in it. She did great. All the acting was great. The different universes were definitely something.
Yeah.
I know there's a few scenes I was like, I just can't take this seriously. I know it's supposed to be a serious scene, but I'm like, the hot dog fingers, I'm sorry, that just, I was like, what the hell? A few times. We looked at each other a few times and we're like, yeah. But getting to, I forgot my stuff.
Go get it in a minute. Just go get it in a minute. You have to. You have to get it's relevant. You have to do it.
Something relevant that was supposed to be sitting here. But as it got further into the movie, I was just like, I was over here doing stuff over here, and then I stopped doing what I was doing just to watch it because I was so into it. It was great. Loved it.
Awesome.
All right, good. I'm glad. Hopefully nobody was really looking forward to what I have to say about the movie. So
we always look forward to what you have to say, Dan.
Down here, just so everybody knows. Let's start with the good stuff first. Yes, the acting was great. And I must come out and say, I have no sentimentality for the Indiana Jones franchise. So I'm not going to even remotely attempt to pronounce his name, but he was fucking awesome in this movie. I actually liked all the acting in this movie. It was all really good. Even random side characters, even characters that were just there for fighting and physical acting. I thought it was really, really good. I liked portions of the story. But as a whole, I thought it was a good movie. That just is not a movie for me. Not even remotely. I found some of it funny. I think there was parts of it that were supposed to be funny for me that I just, as ridiculous and over the top as I could be, I just thought were too ridiculous and over the top for me. We'll get talking as we go through the film. The effects were good. I like the fight choreography. I have a particular scene that I really, really enjoyed in the movie that we'll talk about later when we get to that point. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say without being the odd person out. But like going into it, I knew this movie was getting accolades. I knew it was a multiversal film. That was about it. I'm not really I'm not really an artsy or like Oscar nominated, like the movies that get all the Oscars. Those aren't the movies for me. I'm really usually use film as a form of escapism. I'm not into melodrama, family problems, stuff like that. I don't really care for a lot of that in a movie. Enough of that shit in my family growing up. I don't really. It's not a like, oh, let's go find that. That's what I want to watch. It's just not my thing. So, but there was stuff in this movie I did like, but it just wasn't. Again, it's just not for me.
I appreciate that perspective, actually. And I kind of think that might be, on the flip side, one of the reasons I really love this movie, because kind of like what I mentioned before with A24 and specifically the studio, it is a lot of that indie family drama, kind of like trying to make you cry bullshit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And truth be told, a lot of that stuff I enjoy. But in this movie, you have those elements, especially with Evelyn and her daughter, right? But I don't know, it kind of is masked behind all of this like really cool action and choreography and visual effects. And I don't know, it's a little bit of both, I think, which is why I would have liked, I wish you would have connected to it a little bit more, knowing that you like some of the, probably half of this movie you probably really enjoy, and the other half you could probably take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I've heard that take before, and I kind of appreciate the perspective, and I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear, because like I'm sure you've listened to our show before when we have guests. I don't like bullshitting people. Like I don't like something, I just
Sure.
don't like it. I will tell you, I probably will never watch this movie again. It's not my thing, but I did enjoy. Again, you good?
Yeah.
You're making hand gestures over here.
I didn't watch it. I said I will.
That's fine, by all means. I ain't gonna stop you. But it's just. But anyway, yes. But whatever. I lost my train of thought. I got distracted. No, it's not. No, it's not your fault. It's just how I am. I've seen a shiny light and I went for it. And but I do appreciate.
You're like the bug in a bug's life.
I am. Like, can't help it. But I do appreciate the offer for us to come on. I want to say that I meant earlier, but I missed it.
And I can't wait to hear what top 5 list you guys are gonna do, because it's gonna be so good.
Elevate.
Hearing what Dan said, I gotta. I don't know. We gotta think of something there for sure. I do all my horror episodes in October, but I'm sure we could come up with something fun.
I do shit tier. I watch shit tier movies, so like that's just where I'm at. So.
I love that stuff too, man. I really do.
All right, Dan, is that all? You got more?
That's it.
I stated this before we even started recording. The first time I ever saw this movie was on a flight to Disney. I needed to pass the time, and people all over Twitter were talking about this movie, and I was like, well, why not? I'll just give it a go. Boy, was it a very uncomfortable movie to watch on a flight, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was wacky. A lot of moments where I'm just in my head going, what the fuck is going on here? But the performances are top notch. Michelle Yeoh is so good, and everything she does. Seeing Kiku Kwan, I probably mispronounced the name. I hope I got close. I mean, he's my childhood. Watching, growing up with Indiana Jones. His very first movie was Temple of Doom, and then he would go on to be Data in the Goonies, which is another childhood favorite of mine. And to be honest, I think it was one of those things where you forget that he just stopped acting for a while, and this is like his first role in 20 years, and he just picks it back up, and the performance of his career, like it's so good. And even the side characters, like you said, like Jamie Lee Curtis was nominated for an Oscar in a role she was in for maybe a total of 10-15 minutes in total of the whole movie. Like she wasn't in it. She was in it for a good amount of time, but like just the fact that her role being so small, she was so good in it to get nominated. Like it just shows how well even these side characters were doing. Like Jenny Slate's in there. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah. Hilarious.
In the weirdest role. And of course the legend, James Hong, who is just another comedic genius. Yeah. And I think he's like, what is he? He's got to be in his 90s or something, right?
Yeah, he's got to be pretty. Yeah,
and he's still
at least 90.
He's still top notch. And Stephanie Hsu is the scene stealer. And as much as Michelle Yeoh is amazing, Stephanie Hsu, every scene she's in between the two characters that she plays, or I should say the multiple characters she plays, just amazing. And to be honest, I don't think I've ever seen anything. I know that she's been acting for a bit, but I've never seen anything with her. And so I wasn't familiar with her. And I remember seeing the movie and going, who is this? She's so good.
Yeah, this is definitely her breakout for sure. I mean, she's done some like rom-coms and TV stuff, but I mean, this is her breakout, man. I mean, and now that she's getting nominated, and a lot of people actually didn't know if it was going to happen, and it did, and with Jamie Lee in the same category. And I don't know. I love it so much. I'm so happy for her. And Michelle Yeoh has been, I mean, she's been at this game for like 30 years, bro. She's like doing old Kung Fu cinema and like martial arts stuff. And just has really had to grind it out, And I think when her and Ke Kwan and Stephanie Hsu and those actors took this role, last year or whenever, it was announced and they signed on to do it, I don't think they thought like, oh yeah, we're going to get, we're going to have our lives blown up. So I'm just so happy that such a small kind of production turned them into I think they're going to be superstars going forward. So I think it's awesome.
It's just wild to think that we are at a time where Ke Kwan got nominated for Best Supporting Actor in the same year that Steven Spielberg, the guy who gave him his first job, is also nominated for Best Director for The Fabelmans. Like, it's wild. And then you have Michelle Yeoh and Brendan Fraser, who are in the really just not well liked third Mummy movie together. They reunite.
Oh yeah,
it's so great. It's hilarious. Oh, and Kiku Kwan and Brendan Fraser were they acted alongside each other in Encino Man back in the early 90s. So I got a lot of like, people reuniting for the Oscars this year. It's awesome.
Yeah, when Ke Quan thanked Spielberg in his speech, I think it was at the Globes.
That was amazing,
dude. I cried immediately. Like I was immediately just like, oh my god, because it was the first award of the night, and I was watching it with my 9-year-old because it started at like 8 p.m. or whatever, and my son's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, it's really emotional, But yeah, you're right. I mean, seeing him as literally a child, like 8 years old or whatever it was, and being that age and going through that with him, the Goonies, Indiana Jones, that stuff, and then fast forward to now as an adult, he's an adult. It's like we literally went through this together. I mean, we didn't, but kind of in the back of my mind is what I'm thinking. It's just a really cool story. It's a really feel-good story, regardless of what you think of the movie. Just that they're able to kind of get these accolades this late in their life and their career.
The visual effects, are, in my eyes, they're amazing for the little amount of people that they had actually doing it. It was a total of 9 people who did the visual effects on this movie, and none of them went to school for it. It was all self-taught. Oh, wow. And the directors were part of that team. They helped create the visual effects. They were so involved in this movie. This was only their second film. Their first film was Swiss Army Man, which was the weird movie with Daniel Radcliffe and Paul Dano, where Daniel Radcliffe just was a corpse that Paul Dano got to hang out with on an island. These guys don't make just in air quotes shit. Normal movies. They make some weird shit, and you know what? I'm all in. So yeah, the directors were Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, or the Daniels, as they're always announced. This movie had a budget of $25 million, which is, I'm like, that's it? This is a movie you look at, it's got to be close to 100. And it's just crazy what they can do with, $25 million in my eyes is a lot of money, but for what they did in this movie, it just doesn't seem like, how did they do it? It's insane.
It seemed like a really resourceful film to me, because in my eyes, again, I'm not as knowledgeable as everybody here as far as some the actors here, but a lot of these actors, I personally didn't recognize a lot of them. Like the main cast, yes, but some of the other ones. So obviously not a lot of their budget went there. No offense to them, but I understand there's desirability, more money, blah, 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 blah. But I thought they were really sparse with the use of digital effects where they needed to be.
But even
and I think they did it very frugally and they made it look good.
All the costuming was you would assume that it would cost a lot, just from, especially toward the end.
Right.
It was very, very detailed.
Well, when you do these multiverse, to y'all's point too, when you do these multiverse films, not that there's a ton of live action ones, but when they are, they're different universes. So everything's going to look a little bit different, but still have a familiarity to it. And that's where it gets challenging. And they did get nominated for stuff like that, for costumes and production design and that kind of thing, because it's so intricate, because you're not creating this one setting where, you have to create 7 or 8 or 10 or however many different universes you're trying to go into. So I agree with you. I think it really speaks on many levels to the craft of filmmaking too. And to Brett's point, the fact that the filmmakers were involved in the kind of lower end stuff of the production, and they weren't just in the director's chair like somebody like Cameron or Spielberg. They're not going to touch a freaking editing wheel. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A filmmaker I love is Ty West. He did The House of the Devil. He just did Pearl and X this year. He edits his own films. The guy's insane. I'm like, dude, you're a freaking millionaire. You could hire a team of editors, and you would never have to ever do that. But he wants to have control of his movies, and they come out looking the way that he wants them to look. And I just give that as a kind of a comparison. I think the Daniels are on that same plane where they just do really take ownership of their art, and I think I really applaud that.
So this So as I said, it had a $25 million budget. Had it made $104 million at the box office. So about 4 times its budget. So pretty good outcome there.
Mm-hmm.
As Gerald said, it's nominated for 11 Oscars, which is insane. And did you know the Russos were actually involved in this movie? The directors behind Avengers, the last 2 Avengers movies.
I feel like I'd heard that at some point, but I don't remember the details.
I think it was just mostly like, we need some bigger names on this to kind of get people maybe to give us the money we need to make this movie. So they got attached, and it was just kind of more of a financial thing. I mean, I don't know exactly if that was what went on, but also, I mean, they got some big stars in this movie. Like Michelle Yeoh, she's been around, like you said, for 30 years. She's been doing stuff since, I mean, I know like one of her biggest roles is like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I mean, she was in Shang-Chi last year. I mean, that's not like one of her bigger roles, but she's in a lot of stuff, and she's good in everything. Stephanie, like we said,
Crazy Rich Asians a few years ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And yeah, this cast is amazing. Even those side characters, they don't even have names. It's just like security guard or just like, it's just those random people. You're like, wow, all right. Like the dude there's the guy who is kind of hitting on Evelyn. He's like the older guy. He's like, oh, my wife used to wear that perfume.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Do you want to know what that guy's name is?
Yeah, I looked that up. I was like,
oh
what?
My God, it's hilarious.
Why did his parents do that to him?
His name is Biff Whiff.
Oh, wow. I never heard that before. Wow.
Yeah.
And as I punch my mic, Jenny Slate's character is named Big Nose.
Yeah, she is.
Damn.
I could connect to that one. I was like, yes.
I love the Alpha Jumpers trophy and bigger trophy. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that part.
Yeah, we will.
And
I just love how they're credited. And
Jamie Lee Curtis's name is the best because I did not know her last name. It's Deidre, and her last name is Bobidra. Oh, that's so good.
So they're just having fun with us, you know. Which
oh,
is
absolutely.
Great.
It's
the subtitles we had going while we were watching this fucked me up so much while we were watching this movie because of her name.
Oh, because it was like donut head,
the bagel
or bagel face.
No, I was Ours just said bagel Deidre. I was like,
oh yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
We didn't. This is early in the middle. Like, person's name bagel. Like, what the fuck's going on?
She's so good. She goes all out there. She's like, you know what? I know everybody wasn't a fan of Halloween Ends, so I got to make sure I put a real great performance out there for everyone, so everyone will forget about Halloween Ends. Sorry, Gerald, I don't remember if you've stated if you like that movie or not, but
it disappointed me as a Halloween fan. It's my favorite horror franchise, but I tell you what, she fucking kicked ass in it. Laurie
she did.
Strode is all time.
Just Jamie Lee Curtis,
Queen on Earth.
Yeah.
So she was really good in Gordon Green's trilogy as a whole. Like, I thought she did a really, really good job. And honestly, and I know you guys aren't necessarily Oscar buffs or whatever, but had that movie been a little more well received, I think her performance in Halloween Ends is stronger than this one from an acting perspective. Obviously, this movie is better, in my opinion. Of course, it's all opinion, but her performance in Halloween Ends was pretty great, I thought.
I don't think you're wrong in that assessment, but carry on.
I love that. This is just a character that I don't think we've ever seen from her. Like, just
true.
This exact character and what she does with it is something complete. Like, I mean, she's done some crazy roles in her life, but this is just wild. She just goes all out, and like Jamie Lee Curtis is 64 years old, and she is still gorgeous. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to transform into something that no one's going to expect. And they're like, damn, Jamie, you're so good.
Just hamming it up, man. Hamming it up.
All right. Well, this movie has been talked about to death last year, so I'm not going to go into, I'm not going to go into any of the behind the scenes stuff. There's plenty of podcasts, and, Gerald's covered this movie a lot, and other podcasts have covered this movie a lot. We're just going to go through the plot as best as my notes let me. Gerald, you just hop in whenever you want to say something. You do not need to ask permission. Just start talking, and we're going to start talking about this crazy ass plot. So here we go.
Can I take 1 second before you start that?
Go.
Oh yeah, she needs to get her prop.
She has a prop, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the prop, dude.
I know nobody's
All right.
going to see this, but
Is that just a thing of googly eyes?
no. Oh, I should have.
Oh, it's bagel seasoning.
Bagel seasoning.
I was going to
It's
buy some
everything
googly
bagel
eyes and just
seasoning.
paste them all over me, but I was
Are
too
you?
busy.
You guys are on Letterboxd, right, Brett? I think you.
I
are,
am,
right?
yeah.
Did you know they use the googly eyes
Yes.
for this movie specifically on Letterboxd?
It's
fucking great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I had to keep up with that. I was like, I'm gonna do it. Keep track of the movies I watch because I never remember, and I'm like,
I'm pretty proud of myself. I've watched 21 movies already this year.
Mm.
Some of them I've seen before, but 21 total.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how to break. How do you break it down to like new watches?
You can filter it out.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
It
Letterboxd
might
is
be on the desktop only though, but you can filter it.
I don't even think I've ever used them. All right.
Out of shape.
So here we go.
Shouldn't do that.
Just here panting the whole time.
Oh God. I'm trying not to.
So this movie opens up to a shot of a mirror, and it's our main family having a good time, singing some karaoke, but then it switches up to what we believe is reality, what is actually going on with this family. And this is the Wang family. And at first, are they technically getting audited to get a new business license? Is that the whole thing?
I think they're just getting audited.
I think it's just going through an audit. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think she tells her dad that too.
Oh, so that he doesn't, continue to tell her she's a failure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
God, her dad sucks. But yeah, so yeah, getting audited is just awful. It was giving me anxiety seeing all those receipts on the table, and she's just going through. I'm like, I would lose my mind.
Horrible.
Yeah,
I used to have my own business, and I used to fear, like, please God, don't on some plane in some universe,
yes,
let me be audited by the IRS, please. I mean, I tried to keep up with my stuff electronically for the most part, but yeah, it's always one of those things when you have a business that you're just like fearful of because it's got to be a nightmare.
Oh yeah, you're like, you got to save every single receipt for everything. And you're like, oh no,
Yeah,
it's the worst. So Evelyn, she's stressing out. This is going to be stressful for anybody. And of course, she's doing like 12 things at once. Her husband, Waymond, which is a great name, is, he's the happy-go-lucky husband who's trying to see the positives in things. And he's trying to connect with his wife more, but it just isn't working out well. The father-in-law's there, Gong Gong, and he's very demanding. You find out that he's the worst. He treats his daughter like garbage. He pretty much treats her like a complete failure, and it sucks for her having to deal with that. And you find out that because of the disconnect between Waymond and Evelyn, he is trying to file for a divorce, or at least he's trying to talk to her first to try to get her to, see if they can fix it. He doesn't really want it, but he just feels at this point in life, it's probably the best thing for him. And guess what? Joy shows up, the daughter, with her girlfriend Becky. And Evelyn, it's weird because at first you don't think Evelyn is totally on board with her being gay. And there's actually moments where like she's like, no, of course I don't care. And then there's like, well, why do you have to be that? Like it's always like conflict with Evelyn on whether or not she accepts her. And she can't tell her father. She pretty much introduces Becky as just a good friend. And it's just, it's heartbreaking.
There's a subcontext there. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not Asian, but there's a subcontext there for like Asian culture and like, what's allowed and what's, kind of taboo among families that are old school. And there's a lot of that kind of built into the plot here. I'm assuming Daniel Kwan, one of the filmmakers, had a lot to do with that because obviously he is of that descent. So you can kind of see some of that commentary in there that if you were in Asian culture, you would be able to connect to that a lot more than some, like we probably do. But I think that a lot of that was built in there because that is faced every day by young people in that culture and in that society, So I applaud it for that reason.
Yes. So as you actually speaking to that, I saw an interview with Daniel Kwan where he was talking about when he submitted the script for this, he got a couple like things of feedback about like, so you're pretty much going to make a stereotypical like Asian life story where like this is common for a lot of films about the Asian American life. And he's like, well, yeah, I lived it. And so
Right.
when he got those notes, he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go even harder on it. I'm not even going to back off it. I'm just going to go even deeper into it because, this is what I experienced. I mean, traveling the multiverse, not so much, but the normal things, yes.
Yeah, and I love that little touch. I really do because this is a very fantastical, like, kind of out off the wall movie.
Oh yeah,
we're talking about hot dog fingers and all the other shit, but it's like it's grounded when you bring those kind of like everyday, simple cultural things to the story. So I really like that aspect of it because it's really kind of two different movies happening within the same production.
Mm-hmm.
You have this kind of like Asian family going through their stuff. And then you have all the like fantastical multiverse stuff that's going on at the same time. So I think it's really cool that he was able to incorporate that.
Absolutely. So yeah, you get the whole term. You see that Evelyn and Joy have a very strained relationship. Joy just doesn't seem like she wants to be there. She's only there because Evelyn is throwing a Chinese New Year party. And yeah, she just kind of wants to escape it all. She just wants to kind of get away from her family, start something new. She's with Becky trying to create this new life. And Becky's that like very supportive girlfriend who's just like, no, I want to meet your family. I want everything to be good and dandy. But Joy's like, it's like, there's literally a scene where they're in their kitchen. They go upstairs, they're in the kitchen, and they're, Evelyn's doing 4 different things. And she pretty much is like telling her like she can leave. Like trying not to be a complete bitch about it, but like she's like, she can go whenever she wants, and it's like, well, I don't want her to leave. Like, I'm so confused. And of course, Waymond is just happy. He's just happy Joy's there. He's happy about everything. He just not, it seems like he only gets upset when Evelyn says something that he doesn't like, and it's mostly like he turns into like a sad child instead of being like, what you would say is like an atypical man. Like, what should a man do in this situation? Like he's putting out genuine emotions for the situations he's put in. So Joy continues to try to tell her mom stuff. She's not listening. You have the whole thing where they're trying to find the laundry in the downstairs in the laundromat, but it's like, oh, well, we ran out of room, so we put some upstairs. And this is where you start seeing the googly eyes. They're like starting to be placed in random spots. Like she takes some off of the dryer and she's like, what the hell is this? There's some on the bags. And this is where you meet Rick, who's the, I think he's just the old guy who just likes to hang out at the laundromat. And he likes to hit on Evelyn, telling her that she smells good because she smells like his wife, or how his wife smelled. And this is when they go back upstairs and you actually see on the security cameras that Waymond is talking to Rick, and then Waymond like bows his head and then like turns into somebody completely different. He starts doing parkour all through the laundromat, but no one sees it but the audience, which is great because Evelyn and Joy are having their conversation.
So I was curious what Dan and Angela thought of that when they saw that for the first time, because that kind of fucked with me a little bit, because I was kind of like, wait, what? Like, what the fuck is happening? Again, I didn't know anything about this when I saw it, so it kind of took me by surprise. I'm curious what y'all thought when you saw him kind of doing the backflips and shit on the security cameras.
We were watching, and I'm just watching them talk, and I'm seeing stuff out. You see stuff, and I'm like, did he just? And I'm like, yeah, he did.
I'm just like, yep.
Here we
That's
go.
the thing that just happened. All right, let's see what's going on here.
The funniest thing is there's a guy folding laundry at the table, and he like slides across the table and is like doing things, and the guy's just like, What the hell was that?
Yeah.
What are you doing? And this is when Evelyn, this is where she starts like having slight fantasies about like what her life could have been. It's like you get kind of like glimpses. You don't get any full pictures, but it's definitely like, oh, things could have been very different for me. And this is when Joy kind of drops the bomb that she's thinking about leaving. Like she's going to leave forever. Like she's done with all the bullshit with her. She feels she can never have that relationship she wanted with her mom, especially where she feels she stopped being accepted by her mom. So she's like, you know what? Me and Becky are just going to go. And that's that.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was when you get the interaction that, Gong Gong comes down and he, and then, he's looking for his noodles, and then he meets Becky, and Evelyn introduces her as her friend, and that pisses Joy off.
Yeah.
And I love when, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you can see just kind of like when he comes downstairs there, it's all about the acceptance of like the older generation,
Yep.
And it's like, because Evelyn is giving a different type of commentary when she's just kind of in the hustle and bustle of the laundromat, and they're kind of, talking about it on the fly. Not necessarily like, I'm happy for you, but somewhat of a level of acceptance about the situation. But then as soon as her dad's there in the picture, it's a whole different thing. It's like we have to appease the older crowd. So again, Asian culture kind of creeping in there a little bit from what I've been told. But I think that's also a familial thing. If, the older generations that are still around, that could very easily still exist because they have an old school of thought. Do you know what I mean? So it might not be or it could be frowned upon a lot more, quote unquote, the older you are, the further removed you are from like the progressive generations, so I kind of see how that played into it a little bit too. And he's the representation of that in the movie.
It also depends on your family life too, because we growing up, you could have that with any family group, but we really didn't really have that. At least in my mom's side of the family, it really wasn't brought up much with dads. But yeah,
we did. When we were home, pants were okay. You go to a family function, you have to wear skirts. Don't. No, don't show any tattoos,
Right.
Don't do that.
Right. And it's all to appease the older generation of the family, which is it's crazy. It's like a show that you have to put on when certain people are in the room, it's a weird kind of archaic thing, but I thought it was dealt with well enough in the movie here to where you kind of got what was happening. Like, okay, Evelyn's going to be one way when her dad's in the room, and she might be another way when he's not.
Yeah. And it sucks for Evelyn because she's a middle-aged woman who is still trying to appease her father, even though he's kind of treated her like shit her whole life. Pretty much not even hiding the fact that he considers her a failure in life. And yet she still has to be like, I'll do whatever I need to do for you, Dad, even though I feel like you just don't deserve it from me. You don't deserve my love.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you meet Big Nose, Jenny Slate's character.
Yeah.
And
that's Marcel the Shell right there, buddy. That's the voice of Marcel the Shell.
I haven't seen it. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, she voices Marcel the Shell. And I love her anyway from Parks and Rec, and I mean, I just love her. She's just so funny and charming, and I know she has a really small role here, but being a big fan of hers, that was such a great surprise when I saw her. I was like, oh my God, Jenny Slate.
Yeah.
It was just so cool. I just didn't, because she's obviously not in the marquee and she's not a top billed person, so I didn't even know she was in it until I saw her on camera.
It's great. And she's trying to pay for the laundry, and she's on the phone. So it's, that typical rude customer being on the phone while you're trying to get service done. And Evelyn notices the dog in the little carriage there, but she still asks her if she would come to the Chinese New Year party that's going to be at the laundromat. Like, even though this would be the last person you would ask, just based on her demeanor and the way that she puts it, like, Evelyn just wants people there. She wants some sort of validation. I don't really know, or she just needs to feel like she can have some fun in her life, because I feel like she just doesn't have much fun. So this is where you get the confrontation between Evelyn and Joy. Like, they're out in the parking lot. This is where Joy is kind of like fed up with her shit. And then Evelyn just calls her fat. And I was like, well, that's not going to help you in this situation there, Evelyn. You're just making this worse. And this is where you get part one, everything. So they need to go to the IRS office and meet with their IRS agent, Deidre. But before that happens, they take an elevator ride. And this is when Waymond activates for technically the second time in this movie. And he tries to tell Evelyn who he is and what he's doing. And she's just very confused with the whole thing. And he gives her a set of instructions and pretty much is like, listen, don't try to talk. Like, once I switch back, don't try to talk to me, because I'm not going to remember anything that just happened. Like, I'm going to be pretty much a completely different person. So we meet Deidre, and she is a very good auditor because she likes to show off her butt plug awards.
Oh,
on her desk, which is hilarious.
I was like, "Yep."
You're like, oh, those are going to be a crucial part of this movie.
Wow.
I did not think that the moment I saw those. I was sure you, Parker. I wasn't like into the future. Like, somebody's going to have a butt plug. There's going
to be active props.
Yes,
I literally thought it was like a sight gag, and like, okay,
it's so good. So
I didn't notice him the first time I saw the movie, for sure. And
Parker's just in tuned with his butt plugs. He's like, I got this.
Like, butt plugs. I wonder what's going to happen with these.
This is relevant.
So yeah,
I got that same butt plug on Amazon. There it is.
I guarantee you could probably find these exact ones with the name on it. You know, Deidre Bobidra.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're being audited, and she's going over the receipts, and this is where you get the imagery of the bagel, but it's her circling one thing. She's like, what's going on with this karaoke machine? And they have to like explain it, like, oh, well, Evelyn's a fantastic singer. Like, I just like, wait a minute, it's like, sing her a song. Why is that always a thing? Just because somebody's good at something, do impress them.
Yeah.
Do that thing. And so Evelyn, while everything's going on, she's kind of zoning out, and she decides, I'm going to follow the instructions that the other Waymond gave to me. So she's got to like put her feet in, like, switch up her shoes. What was the second instruction?
Close your eyes and pretend you're in the
in the closet. And that's when you get the cool effect of her getting kind of like sucked into the closet. And that's where she meets Alpha. She meets Alpha Waymond for the second time. And he goes into the full explanation of what's going on. He is part of so is it technically a multiverse, or is it a thetaverse? Because Deidre in this universe calls it the thetaverse. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, he tells her about the multiverse, about how, you know, there is a big bad out there, Jobu Tupaki, who is
names that they come up with.
It's great. And yeah, there's this big bad who is out to destroy the multiverse, and Evelyn is the person to do it. And she's like, what? I can't do anything. I am bad at everything. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a great scene when she's like, I don't have time to help you. I'm very busy today. Leave me alone.
Oh, like it's so good. And yeah, this is where, and like Deidre starts like fading in because she's trying to, so I was like, Evelyn, are you paying attention? And she like comes out of it and then goes back in. And this is where Waymond like having the conversation, and then Waymond like literally gets like his neck snapped at the door.
Yeah.
By Deidre, who's on the other side. Bagel Deidre, by the way.
Yeah. Bagel Deidre. It's good.
Oh, it's so good.
She's just
That's later.
I know, but just the whole thing with her forehead.
Yeah. It's great. But it's one of those.
The whole thing. It's her forehead. Like, okay.
So yeah, so you know, she freaks out, she gets attacked. and it kind of like wakes her up into the real world. I will put that in quotation because we don't. It's one of those things where it's like you don't really know what the technical real world is, because this could be part of the. It's all part of the multiverse, and yeah, I just love how serious Deidre is at her job. Like she is so she's stressing out. She's like chugging like coconut milk. I think that's what that was. I don't know.
It's a premier protein drink.
Was it?
And I'm like, the noises that she was making while drinking, and I was like cringing because that is not the way people drink. So
Waymond is trying to talk to Deidre, and she's kind of drowning out and talking in her head is like, I wonder what my stupid husband's saying. He's probably messing this all up. And every time she thinks that, Waymond actually is helping the situation because Deidre's like, you can go, but you have until 6 o'clock tonight to come back with the stuff that you need. And so, they're like, okay, so they go and leave. And then Deidre just is getting up to leave too, and Evelyn
she looks super fucking pissed.
Oh, dude. That's right, yeah.
Yeah, she was kind of stomping there. Yeah.
So Evelyn is all sketched out, so she punches her in the face.
I would have if somebody was coming after me like that after we just got into a not fight, but
it's so good though.
Well, I know we're getting there, Brett, but this leads to definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie. With Ki-hee Kwan.
It's fantastic.
With the fucking fanny pack. Best use of a fanny pack since I went to Disney World in the 90s.
He's got a quality ass fanny pack too. It's like leather and shit. Like, damn.
Yeah.
He did a lot of this himself because he's a black belt, I believe, Taekwondo. So he was able to do a lot of this.
I noticed, like, I mean, obviously with effects, they can do a lot of stuff these days. It looked like it was him doing it.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
it's a nice mix of him doing some of his own stuff there too. For sure.
Yeah.
So after I love how Deidre just overreacts to the whole thing. Like, getting punched in the face sucks, but she's like wailing, call security.
Yeah. Really playing
that. They're on the 11th floor. Get up here. And this when the security guards come up and we get the amazing fight scene with Waymond as he activates. What is he? Oh, he has to eat the chapstick. He like the slow.
He eats the whole thing. They're like, "What are you doing?"
Like,
and I'm like, "He's not gonna eat that, is he?" Sure enough.
But oh man, this fight scene is fantastic.
It had the taste.
So delicious. It tastes just like the flavor that it advertises.
Oh, I bet it does.
Oh, so he fights the security guards in really cool fashion. These security guards don't get paid enough for this. To the point where I love it though when he like leans and like folds his leg over to kind of like sit on the wall against the wall, and then he grabs the stones from the fish tank and puts them in his fanny pack, and then just continues to beat the shit out of these security guards. But my favorite is when he throws the fanny pack and the clip gets stuck in the dude's nose, and he pulls it down and just it's so good.
And then latches it back on seamlessly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
so
damn,
good.
Yeah. That's a powerful clip right there.
Yeah, it's a nice fucking fanny pack. Get your damn money's worth out of it.
Yeah, that's what you call like a wake up scene. You know what I mean? Like you don't really know what's going on with the movie yet. It's kind of like weird commentary, weird family shit. Like you're not quite sure. And then that scene comes along. That's just fucking wakes you up, man. Like that. I remember just like, I'm into this now. Like, let's fucking go. Like, is this what this is going to be? And then we get a couple more sequences that kind of echo this a little bit later on and with different characters. But this was kind of that introduction to that part of the movie with like the action fight choreography parts that we see throughout the movie.
Yep.
That you weren't really expecting up until that point. And I thought it was it was beautifully edited, and it was just an awesome showcase for kind of what we were going to see later in the movie.
Some nice cinematography with the fight.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh, absolutely. I do want to mention though the fact that like when she first gets like shown, like when Waymond kind of shows her the whole multiverse and she kind of goes through her life, and you see like her, getting with Waymond and going through that life, having a kid, and just the, you know, the fact of her father kind of disowning her in a way because she was going to move to America, and you know, it just seeing her life over again. And then she'll continue to see different versions of it throughout the movie. So we go back to the universe, which is the 4,677th Thetaverse, as Bagel Deidre would call it, where this is where you meet Jobu Tupaki. And I love the fact of you see like she like runs her fingernails across the like cubicle, and her nails change, and it's crazy. She's wearing one outfit, and then when she like bends down to look at Evelyn's kind of, she's not technically dead, I guess, but she's like knocked out. Her outfit completely changes. She's like wearing like one of those masks, and I love the outfit, the quick outfit changes. You don't really see how it happens. It kind of just switches, and you see something new. And make
no mistake. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Make no mistake. This movie is flawlessly edited.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best edit. My daughter's a film editor, and I'm a video editor myself. This movie is like one of the best edited films easily of the last like 5-10 years. And to know that they did it on such a small budget, it makes it so much better. But that kind of goes into what you're saying there too, with this scene specifically.
It's funny though, like, because I think she's the one who kind of shows her different things, right? She touches her and it like sends her through a bunch of sends her a bunch of visions to the point where it actually ends up killing her, and it changes her into like a baby outfit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, I guess not this one. I have to be it's like, don't worry, I'll find you. So Alpha Wayman explains that he is from the Alphaverse, where his Evelyn created the technology to travel across the multiverse. So Evelyn is the one behind all of what's going on, pretty much. And you find out that she's also the reason Jobu exists. So she pretty much is told that Jobu has the technology to pretty much destroy the multiverse, and Evelyn is the only person who can stop it from happening. So Deidre, we get the scene where they're in that Thetaverse still, are they in the real universe when Deidre like activates and she staples the thing to her forehead and just starts going
our universe, yes.
Yeah. And she just starts going ham, just starts bull rushing all of the cubicles, and
yeah,
she's terrifying. Alpha Wayman has to activate by giving himself paper cuts. I fucking hated the scene so much, man.
I know.
It's just like, you got to do the paper. It's just in between every finger. No.
Between all the fingers, and you can't. It doesn't. You don't get paper cuts that easily. It's always by accident. Like, oh, damn it!
Like he just kept doing it because it wouldn't work, and I was like, stop it.
It's awful.
Yeah, fucking kills.
But he goes through all that, activates, and then just gets his ass beat by Deidre. So he doesn't even get anything in.
Yeah.
And so, Wayman being out of the picture, they're like, okay, well, Evelyn needs to activate. So she gets it's all Bluetooth. They're like the Bluetooth headphones that they wear that activates. And the only way she can verse jump is by professing her love to Deidre. But it has to be genuine, because we see that if it's not genuine, she gets sent to a weird ass universe. And that universe is hot dog fingers.
I love it. It's so terrible, but I love it.
And then I believe it's
so. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say it's about the time we also get some random, because they discuss the hot dog finger verse with the ketchup and the mustard, and they do a weird recreation of the scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I'm like, okay. I mean, kudos for the reference, but all right.
Yeah. Well, it's just so memorable, right? I mean, it's just such a crazy, off-the-wall like prop and scene that's placed there that just sticks with you. It's easily one of the most memorable things about the movie is that hot dog fingers. It's like, what? Like, who thought? Like, what are y'all thinking when you come up with this?
Me too.
Yeah.
I just love when they're trying to find her in the multi. She's like, where is she? She's like, she's so far outside. Like, we can't see where she is. And this whole and this universe, Evelyn and Deidre are a couple, but they have the sausage,
right.
they have the hot dog fingers, and she, of course, she's confused, so she like leaves, and it just sad hot dog finger, Jamie Lee Curtis. It's hilarious, but also she gets sent kind of like back in time where she's like having a conversation with Waymond about the whole possibility of a divorce, and Evelyn, of course, is pissed off and confused. She's like, "Oh, so your brother gets a divorce and you think it's okay? Like, we made a sacred vow. Like, what the hell?" And of course, he shows all of his emotions. He starts crying. He's just like, "I just want to connect. I want to have a relationship. We don't have a relationship."
Yeah, because she's always so up busy with the business or everything else she's doing. She's just kind of pushing everybody away. So.
But she finally activates. She finally like does it correctly because Waymond goes back to being the normal Waymond, and so they both are trying to run away from crazy Deidre, and this is where you finally get her actually professing her love to Deidre as she's like soaring through the air, about to knee her in the face, and then she gets sent back to a verse where she didn't get with Waymond. She met like a kung fu master. She learned kung fu, became a huge movie star, and I love that they have shots of actual red carpets that Michelle Yeoh was on, because there's like a crazy. I saw like crazy rich Asians in the background too. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so she is able to learn that skill, and so she is able to defeat Deidre for now. But I love it where she asks, like, why can't
head in the fucking wall?
Yeah.
She's just like, ugh, help me. Like, nope, just.
Well, she gets sent through like the floor at first, and then she like comes back out. Yeah, she just gets sent into the wall.
Yep.
It's great. But there's that scene where after all that happens and she meets back up with Alpha Waymond, she's like, why can't I just live in one of those, the universes where good things are happening for me? And he's like, because that's not what they're there for. They're there for you to learn skills. You can't stay there because it could mess up the entire, fraction, or it could fracture the multiverse. I'm like, damn, am I watching, like, why is this better than the Marvel multiverse films? Like, damn. So we find out that Alpha Evelyn helped create Jobu. So it was Joy, and she like was experimenting on her to the point where it activated these crazy powers. So Jobu is like all powerful. She can literally jump between multiverses without having to do the activation thing. She can change her appearance on a, in a blink of an eye. She pretty much can't die. Where all these other verse jumpers, as they're called, can die.
Yeah, because it like fractured her mind so she can see literally everything all at one time. Yep. Like she's aware of everything. So
Evelyn gets sent back to the movie star universe, and she meets Waymond in a different light. Of course, he went off and did his own thing. He was successful. And then it bounces back because Evelyn and Waymond are getting detained by the security guards in the real world. And this is when Jobu makes a grand appearance. She comes up from the elevator. She's dressed as Elvis. She comes in and she gets handcuffed. This whole scene was fantastic. Like like you said, the editing is flawless. Like it was the point where I think I can't remember if she shoots the security guard and it's like confetti, or like confetti comes shooting out of his mouth.
Confetti comes shooting out of his mouth and then he explodes into confetti.
Yes.
She walks through him essentially. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. This is another one of my favorite scenes. I mean, this is my second favorite scene now that as we're going through here. But Stephanie Hsu is just badass, dude. And she just, shows her face for the first time, and at least in, not in the quote unquote real world. And dresses Elvis is just a great touch. And yeah, it's just awesome, man. Awesome imagery, awesome editing. And Stephanie Hsu just kicks ass in this, man. And you kind of are scared of her. Mm-hmm. You're kind of like, wow, she's really fucking powerful. Like, seeing her in setting it up to where we saw her in the first act, where she's very timid and kind of like looking for approval, and not that character at all. It was kind of jarring in that way too. Because it's obviously the same actress. But yeah, I love this scene so much, man. It's so awesome.
The thing that always freaked me out was the one where she pulls her hair back and her face comes out of it. And you're like, oh my God, it's so jarring. And then she beats the shit out of a guy with a gigantic dildo, or two dildos, actually, massive ones. My wife's like, wow, those are huge.
Yeah.
Somebody got
Pile drive was my favorite.
Oh, yes. That was great. And then that's when, of course, this is the first time that Evelyn sees her. So she automatically just thinks it's Joy. She's like, Joy? Like my joy? And so she kind of explains everything what's going on to Evelyn, and then tries to persuade her to kind of join her. Because the whole point is to kind of get Evelyn to join her in the bagel.
Does she explain? Is this where she explains the bagel?
Or
like that it's a bagel. So I made a bagel.
Yeah. Because actually, this is when Evelyn travels to the hot dog finger universe, because this is when Jobu is about to take her and she needs to activate, but she messes up the activation, which then sends her to hot dog universe. So we were a little early on it, but whatever, we talked about it.
Hot dogs.
And now here's my question, not to get super sexual with this, but like, is the ketchup and mustard kind of like, is that how they ejaculate in that world? Is that what that was?
Is that for blood?
I'm not. That was a genuine thought when I'm watching this movie. I was like, is that like their way of having sex? Because they're like sticking them in their mouths and then like ketchup and mustard squirting out. I'm like,
the two dancers that are doing it, and it's
on the movie,
ketchup and mustard.
On the movie, yeah,
ketchup and mustard are all. I'm like,
okay,
so that's where they're going.
Listen, dude, I'm gonna tell you something right now. I would never make it through Sausage Party because sexualizing food is just a no-go for me.
That movie is awful.
Listen, this whole scene, I'm just like watching it. You know how everybody's listening to the show knows how I am about weed, dick, and fart jokes. But like this, I'm just like
mostly dick jokes.
Like food, you're either want to have sex or you want to eat. There's not a Chris. They don't cross together for me. That shit don't work. So this whole scene, I'm just like,
here I am laughing.
I'm just like,
I
know,
like a teenager. Like this.
But that's what's great about this movie is it has all, like, you literally see all these emotions. Like even you're going through a bunch of different emotions because there's some really heartfelt moments in this movie, and then there's moments like that where there are literally people with hot dogs for fingers just shoving them in their mouths. Like it's hilarious.
No. Today at work, I was back in the pharmacy, and one of the guys back there, he's like, makes me want a hot dog real bad, and I was like, damn it! And then I had to tell him about what we'd been watching.
Trying to open doors.
Oh, it's hilarious when you see it later on in the movie. Oh, it's great.
I'm laughing. He's like, was it that funny? I was like, no, just wait.
So Jobu shows Evelyn the bagel, the everything bagel, which I love the imagery of the everything bagel. It's just that black, it's a black hole and it's just spinning. Mm-hmm. And and pretty much Job was just like, nothing matters. Like like, this is why we need to escape, because what are we trying to do? Are we trying to change things? What's the point? It's not going to make anything better. So nothing matters. And as like Jobu is about to take Evelyn, that's when Gong Gong comes in like a fucking bat out of hell with his rocket powered wheelchair and just takes her and sends her into the wall. It's so great. Oh Lord. And this is Alpha Gong Gong, by the way. Alpha Wayman tells Evelyn that he pretty much, he lays it down. He's like, listen, you are the worst version of yourself. And she's like, well, that's nice of you to say. Pretty much like, yeah, I mean, out of all the Evelyns I've ever met, you are the worst version. So he has to go back to the Alphaverse to deal with Jobu because she actually runs into them. And so he's like, I got to go back there and deal with her. So she's kind of left alone with regular Waymond, and also Gong Gong's there. But is he Alpha Gong Gong? I think so. because he tells her like he tells her he's got to kill her pretty much because Joy shows up, and of course she's dressed in like the golf attire.
Yeah.
But she's Joy, but Alpha Gonga, he's not about that. He's like, no, you got to kill her. And Evelyn's just confused, so she like duct tapes her, or she tapes her to a chair, and she's all confused, not knowing what the hell's going on. And she pretty much tells Gong Gong that she's not going to do it, and so she sends him back to the Alphaverse. So now it's Evelyn against Jobu, but also she's against all these verse jumpers because Gong Gong then sends verse jumpers to go after Evelyn because he thinks that Evelyn is protecting Jobu.
And that she's been corrupted by the bagel.
Bagel corruption.
Right. It is corrupted bagel. It's moldy. It's a moldy bagel. It's black. I wouldn't eat it. Probably not good.
We wouldn't eat it either. It's black. It's burnt. It's definitely been over toasted.
I love when she's told about she's talking about Raccacoonie.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's trying to explain it. It's like Ratatouille. I love that movie.
Yeah, I love, dude. I like that. That was I love that exchange.
Yeah,
I'm glad that there's actual substance to that.
Good. Great stuff.
And this is where you see a lot of weird ways of these verse jumpers having to activate. You actually see she actually travels to another universe where she is the maid for the guy who owns this or who is in this office, and it's actually one of the directors. And he comes out of the room and he's getting he likes to be dominated, so he's getting taken out there. And so that's when she finds out that there's a room behind her. So she takes Waymond and Joy and goes into this room, and that's when all the verse jumpers. I love it when it's just random people, like a woman's jogging. You have a guy who's part of the police force. They just activate and they just turn. I love it like the girl goes under the police tape and the guy's just like, and no one stops her. Like, where are you going? But yeah, you get to see all these weird ways of them activating. Like they got to sing a song. One guy is like licking the wall. One dude's photocopying his ass.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
That's not too outlandish. That was the most unbelievable part of this whole fucking movie. Like, you got to do something really out of the normal. Like, people do that.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So this is when Evelyn, she activates new skills from a universe where she's a blind singer. Boy, the way she becomes a blind singer, that's terrifying. She literally like falls on two sticks. Like they show her like running as a kid.
Yeah, that was rough.
And so she becomes a singer, and then she like transports to a universe where she is really good at doing those sign spinning.
Yes.
Because then she takes the police guy's shield and starts doing the cool moves. And I'm like, I can guarantee Michelle Yeoh did most of these stunts because she is a badass.
She fucks up with that shield.
She's 61 years young, man. She is still gorgeous and a badass.
Oh, and James Hong was born in 1929, by the way. You were talking about.
Yeah, so he's 90, 93, 94, right?
94.
Yeah, his birthday's in February.
Yeah, so he'll be 94 this year.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
A trooper, man.
So yeah, she whoops all these people's asses with the shield, and then she runs into Big Nose in the little cafeteria there. God. And this is when my wife was like, what? Because she literally picks up the dog and starts spinning it around and just throwing it. Oh, it's so great.
I was debating during this scene what was better, like the fanny pack as a weapon or the dog as a wepen.
That's good.
Next to him, she's like, sorry.
Oh God. Yeah.
His name was like what, Charlie or something.
Yeah.
She's like, sorry, Charlie. It's like, oh gosh.
And this is, she activates into a universe where she works at like a hibachi, so she's really good with like the knives and stuff, and that's where she like cuts the leash and it sends the dog flying.
Cuts the leash with a spoon and a cake server.
Yes.
Which is not sharp remotely, and it just
it's fantastic. And she fights a guy who's got a couple pipes. And
that's cool. I like that.
This is great though, because they both lose their powers, and so they're just they're just slapping each other.
Right.
This whole thing, like after the whole Jobu thing, and this, it's like all this, it's probably my favorite part of the whole movie.
Nice.
Let's get there. We're good.
Yeah, because this is the infamous scene that all
This
comes
is
around,
the
Dan, from
scene.
what I saw in that scene earlier, and I was like, those are going to come into play.
You're so full of shit.
This was the scene where I was on the plane going,
Foreshadowing.
I hope no one's watching this. But yeah, the guy needs to reactivate his power, and he's told he needs to activate it with a butt plug. I just love how it just pans to the butt plug, and you're like, oh no.
The guy just unzips it like that.
Yeah, the
so
slow-mo belt, undoing the belt, and then they fight, and she's just trying to prevent him from getting, I love how he's just hopping on the desk trying to get his ass into there. And then the security guard from earlier that
launches in the air.
And sails. Dude, and that boy takes it like a champ, dude. There must be no tread on that tire. Like, he just hits that bitch and just no flinch, just turns and smiles. Like, this dude is dedicated.
I love, though, that, like, this is a rated R movie where they could show dong, and they're like, nah, we're gonna blur it. We don't need to have this.
No, that makes it even better.
I thought it was kind of funny.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, they don't really show. Yeah, the only thing that was weird was when they're fighting and you just see the butt plug just dangling there at his ass as he's fighting. I'm like, what is happening?
The other dude comes in with the bigger one in his ass.
When I first saw this movie, I was like, did he shove a trophy up his ass? Like, that's got to be painful.
Dude, they've got amazing sphincter control.
Holy shit.
Or nothing.
I was like, dude, he didn't even waste time taking his pants off.
No, he's just like, we're in it, dude.
It's a great shot, though, when they're both like coming at her and she's able to grab both of them and disconnect them, and they just both soar into the walls. She then runs into her father. She runs into her father, who pins her up against a wall, and then she activates into another universe where she has a really strong pinky. I love it when she like flexes the pinky and it's got a muscle, and then she like literally flicks him and he sends his wheelchair back into the column. Oh, it's so good.
Did you point out that he has like a coffee pot?
Yeah, he's got like a fucking coffee pot shit on the back of his wheelchair. I was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So Jobu catches up to the Alpha jumpers, so Waymond and everyone who was in that van, and ends up taking them out. And Evelyn dies, and you see like the cracking in all the universes, and then it's over. It says the end. And my wife got up and started to walk out of the room. And then
I even looked. I was like, wait a minute, it's not over yet.
I'm not gonna lie, I would have been good right here. Like, all right, dude, this ended great. There's an awesome finale here with dildos and butt plugs and whatnot. And like,
yeah, I mean, it would definitely ended on a high note. That's for sure. Yeah.
It's on something. That's for sure.
But you find out it's a movie that movie star Evelyn was watching, because she like wakes up out of it. Like, oh, okay, this is complete. It's not over yet, and she needs to refocus, get back into the fight. And then I love how it's like traveling between the different multiverses, where it shows Deidre, kind of sad Deidre, because Evelyn left her. And then you see, I think this is the part where the guy, or she exposes Rakakuni.
Yeah, well, was it Chad.
Chad. And it's literally, I love how it's just like, no, we're not even going to hide the fact that this is literally just a ripoff of Ratatouille, because he's literally controlling him with his hair. But it's so obvious. I love the tail, like when they show him like cooking, and just the raccoon tail's coming out of the back of his hat, and he's just winking at her.
Did you know Randy Newman did the voice of that?
Really?
Randy Newman, who scored Ratatouille, the Pixar film.
Like, you got a friend in me, Randy Newman?
Yes.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
They got him to do the voice work for it, which I thought was just a nice touch.
Chad! Save me, Chad. So then we get
the killer. Raccoons, like controlling him to kill her.
I love it. Yeah, because he's like, she knows too much. And they're like, what the hell?
This is way different than the movie I remember.
So we are in part 2. Everywhere. So we are at the party. Jobu, this is where you see Jobu kind of projecting through Joy in like the real, or you think is the real world. You're kind of, you don't know what is the real world for a good amount of time into the second part, because like Joy comes up, starts talking to her, and then you could see like her, like she tilts her head and she tells Becky to leave, and then you see that she's Jobu, and she shows Evelyn all the possibilities of her power and what she can do. I love that they're up in the apartment, and they're having that conversation. And Stephanie Shu, her performance is so good. Like the way that it could just be so sarcastic, and like Wayman comes in and she pretends like she got hit. She's like, "Ow, hi, Dad."
Yeah.
She's like, "Come here, sit on the couch, sit on the crack," and then they get sucked in. And they get to the temple of the everything bagel. And I love that they got the Dr. Seuss style book of this entire story, which is great. It's supposed to be in the vein of is it everything that happens on Mulberry Street? I think that was the kind of the inspiration for what this book was a influence on. So she shows her the bagel. It brings Evelyn back to life in that other universe. And then she decides she's going to change the trajectory of her life. So it sends her back to the party. You get to see her tell Deidre to shut up, because like Deidre shows up to the laundromat to kick her out. And she just tells her to shut up. Then she signs the divorce papers. Oh, this is when she uncovers Rakakuni in that other universe. She officially leaves Hot Dog Finger Deidre. And she's taken back control of her life. And this is when we get the Rock universe, which I was like, what is happening? There's no music.
There's nothing.
It's just subtitles.
Yeah.
I don't like this scene.
This is when
screams like fucking artsy, and I'm just like, dude, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
no, it definitely is. Yeah.
Honestly, after the martial arts stuff, because I'm a child about things, like most of this part of the movie I really wasn't a fan of.
Well, it's vastly different. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I understand the movie. Like I don't feel like I was deceived at any point of the movie, because I really didn't know what to expect in the first place. So it wasn't like I get what they're trying to do with this part of the movie, right? We're trying to reground these characters, show the emotional side of it instead of just the non-sensory all the time.
Right.
So,
well, it stripped it away, and it's stripped it down to literally just a simple thing you can think of as just these rocks sitting on a cliff with no score, no dialogue. Just, I mean, literally the most boring image that if you were sitting in your yard watching, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to walk away from this. There's no reason for me to stare at two rocks, Yeah,
no, absolutely.
So it kind of puts that in this like really crazy, fucked up movie that listen to what we've been talking about, fucking butt plugs and hot dog fingers,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then all of a sudden it's just two stones sitting out on a cliff. So I don't know. It just it was another like kind of like jarring scene, which had no real substance to it other than to just kind of make you stop and go, where am I? What's happening? What am I seeing? What did I just see? What's going to happen next? It was almost like an intermission kind of built into the movie, but it had some touching, subtitles, I won't say dialogue, to go along with it. So I don't know. I think it was strategic on the filmmaker's part, but to Dan's point, did it really need to be there? I don't know.
Well, and I'm not even questioning that. I mean, like, it's just for myself, because I'm not trying to, like, the director, writers, they had a vision for how they wanted this movie to go, and it's just not what I wanted from a movie. Like, and like I said, if this is what I was going for, if I was going for like an artsy, like a moving, like, this is what you're gonna get, and that's fine. But I also, it all goes down to the whole one thing I don't like about this movie is Stephanie Hughes, or whatever her name. I can't know her last name.
Stephanie Shu.
Shu, thank you. It throws me off because it's usually H-U-S and not the H. Yeah, anyway, it messes me up. Anyway, I think of Japanese, not anyhow. But I don't like her perspective as a villain. That everything. I know everything, so nothing matters. Like, it's an angle that I have seen a lot in shows that I have watched. So for me, it's tired. That's why I was just like, okay, great. You're like 90% of the villains I've seen and stuff I've watched. They're like, fuck the world. It doesn't matter. I know everything you do is inconsequential. We're a collection of cells. Blah, 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 blah. And like, I'm not a religious person, so that's how I feel about things, but that's not how I realistically feel in life. Like, I just don't like the whole, if you break everything down to like, on the statistical level, we're just atoms. Fantastic. I can still enjoy life. Even though I know I think is true as well, but I don't like that perspective as a character. So that's why the rest of this movie just kind of like falls flat for me. Except for there are some not discounting the performances, mind you, like just tonally the rest of the movie and that story wise, I just don't care. But go ahead.
Was this the part where they're going through all the different art styles?
No, that's at the end where they're fighting.
That's like, but to come up with that at the end, it's almost like the rock part is just a full stop on what, like you said,
it's like a reset.
But it's like, it didn't really need to be in that part. I felt like it was, I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. It feels like a tonal reset. Like you said, like,
that,
the first
and
part
also
is
I
different.
feel like, and that, and also I feel like it kind of is showing us too, like how different like one universe is from like the one farthest away from it. Like they're so different.
Yeah,
the same shit's kind of going on, but one of them is this quiet, no movement, no sound, nothing, with really the same kind of like underlying plot. But then over here you have that same plot with butt plugs and fight choreography and who knows. So it kind of shows too the juxtaposition between like the quiet and the loud, and how we decide to view our path in life. You know what I mean? And what angle different people might take.
Yeah,
I like it. I like all these perspectives. I love it. I love a movie. I mean, I don't love movies that confuse the shit out of me, but I love movies that make you think. Like, I make you go back and like, because there are parts of this movie that did confuse me, because I'm easily confused because I'm not the most intelligent person. But this movie made me question a lot of things and made me just, in a good way, not like, oh, what the hell is going on? It's just like, what? I guess you just have like different perspectives in your head, and you're just trying to make sense of it all. And that's 100% what the Daniels were doing with this movie. They want you to ask questions. They want you to have those different perspectives and have those different ideas of what could be going on, even though they have a solid, like, they know what this movie is about. They made the damn thing. So they know that the movie is about this, and this, but to have people come in and have all these other ideas, I think that's a good thing. At least for me, I would always, if I was a filmmaker and making something like this, I'd want people to have all these different perspectives on it. But there's only one that's correct. So Wayman fixes the situation with Deidre. This is another situation where Evelyn thinks that Wayman is screwing it up because he's trying to talk to Deidre. Because so Evelyn smashed a window at the laundromat, and she's detained at her own laundromat, by the way. And and yeah, so but then you find out that Wayman actually fixes it. Like, he kind of fixes the situation again. So like, it's just showing that Evelyn, before, she always thought that he was screwing things up, but actually she needs Wayman because Wayman is the reason things are actually not going to complete shit. Like, she gets released, she kind of makes up with him. Well, she kind of like shows affection to him, and I love the whole thing outside with Deidre, where they actually have like a civil conversation. It's not her, and you get to see a different side of this universe's Deidre. She's not a psychotic bull, busting through walls and stuff, and she's doesn't have her hot dog finger. She's just, we're seeing her, and we also hear the fact of like, she's the product of divorce, which is the reason that she gives the extension on the audit, is because Wayman told her of the situation that's going on. So she kind of relates to it, which I like how that all comes around. But then we got to see that Hot Dog Evelyn and Hot Dog Deidre made up, and you see that we didn't talk about it before, but when Deidre leaves and she's got to use her foot to drag the suitcase, she's like hopping on one leg to get out,
Yeah.
and then Evelyn comes back and she's playing piano with her feet. Oh my god!
I do want to mention something, and this is real. It's where non hot dog fingers, Evelyn and Deidre are talking. Is I think this is where Evelyn kind of gets her. I mean, obviously, she gets her breakthrough moment where even though they seem like entirely different people, they have that common ground, and they express it by communicating. Like they talk to one another, and that's where again Evelyn's big issue is she listens to her father, does what she says, and just talks at everyone else, but doesn't really listen to anybody else.
Yeah.
So
yeah, yep.
This is when this is when we get the googly eye attack, where she kind of activates her true power. She puts the googly eye on her forehead, and she like sprays all of the people that are there.
She gets shot, and the bullets come.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and they turn into the googly eyes. Yeah.
She throws them at him. Like, oh shit.
We see we go back to the Rock universe where the Rocks have googly eyes, and she gets Joy to go over the Joy goes over the cliff. Or
I did like
Jobu
Rock with the googly eyes because I will totally put googly eyes. Remember when we had Rock? You remember Steve the Rock?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. We had a rock for years. I don't know. It was just a stone that I found somewhere. I had it for years. No idea what happened to it.
People signed it.
Maybe he was in this movie.
It was just a big fucking rock I had. I don't know.
I kicked it a couple times on accident. Yes, about broke my toe.
Yeah, sure.
The rock.
So this is when Evelyn, she changes her fighting style. She needs to fight with love. She needs to fight like Waymond, not with anger, but with more understanding. So instead of like beating the shit out of all these people, she's like you got the guy who's actually Daniel, one of the directors, Daniel Schreiber, I think his name is. He's the one who likes to be dominated. So like you got him getting spanked on the staircase.
Ironically, that he works the IRS and wants that done to him, but carry on.
You have the two that like get married.
Oh yeah. And then the dude, Biff Weff gives him the fucking the
perfume.
Fragrance.
Yeah.
Perfume, yes.
His hair is like flowing.
Biff Weff.
That's so good. And then Big Nose, it's she gets the opportunity to spend some time with her child, which I thought was cute. And then you get the whole thing where she has to fight her father to the point where it's one of those things where she is showing it's one of those things like, I don't want to become you. I want to save my daughter, and I want to love my daughter the way that she deserves, and not the way you loved me, because was that really love? And then it gets to the point where he lets go of her to then stop Jobu from escaping, because she's going to go. She's trying to get to the bagel, and I love it where she ends up getting her, and she falls down the stairs, and it just transforms into a bunch of different costumes to the point where when she finally lands, she's just a jumbled mess of costumes and makeup.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So yeah, she with help from all of the verse jumpers, they save Joy. And you get the heartfelt conversation between Evelyn and Joy out in the parking lot where, she's honest like she was earlier. Like, she's like, yeah, you have gotten a little fat. But then she like turns it around and she, she's trying to get her to stay. But then she's like, I gotta go. Like, she's so emotional. She's like, I gotta leave. And so Evelyn's like, okay. And so she kind of lets her go, but to the point that she's like, nah, screw this. I'm saving you. Like, we're going to save this relationship. And then the multiverse is restored. Yay. We get part 3. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to say the whole scene that Joy and Evelyn have. That part resonates with me because the whole thing, Joy's character says when she's Jobu is like all, the whole everything's shit except for maybe a few moments and like that shit matters. I mean, you only have the time you have on this rock, so enjoy with the time you get. With the people you're around. So that resonates with me, and I like that was her full circle with her characters. So,
So we get part 3 all at once. This is when. So Joy originally was supposed to help them with the audit because, of course, like Evelyn and like none of them really have the best English. Like they can't really speak that great of English. So Joy was supposed to be there to kind of translate for them and help them out. And she finally goes there. I love though that like Becky is the one who drops them off, and she's like, "You need to grow your hair out," because she's got like the shaved head. Yeah. And this is where you get some affection between Evelyn and Waymond. Like she gives him a kiss.
Gross.
I know, it's disgusting.
Married people don't do that shit. It's fucking nasty. And it just kind of ends like you get she kind of zones out again, and that's when you get Deidre's like, Evelyn, are you listening to me? And she's like, what did you say? And then that's it, and it ends. Mm-hmm. I do have a couple deleted scenes I just want to talk about real quick. I'm not going to drag these out, but there's 4 deleted scenes that they had, or actually 5 technically. There was an extended opening sequence where it was the mirror shot where they're singing the karaoke. They actually sing Barbie Girl, like she's trying to get her to sing Barbie Girl, which actually leads to another deleted scene. There's one where in that Thetaverse where you first meet Jobu, she pretty much tells Bagel Deidre that no one likes her, and so she gets upset to the point where she just jumps off one of the balconies, like she just offs herself. Okay,
I was like, wow. Okay. There was just an extended fight scene with the butt plug fight, like with the 2 butt plug guys.
Naturally,
and you need an extended.
Yeah. Everyone got suction cup to a wall. Like, I'm stuck.
No, it wasn't really. It was just a little bit longer. It was nothing like notable. And then there was one where they get travel. There was an alpha universe where Jobu doesn't exist, and the multiverse was mostly destroyed by everyone. Where it's just a pacifist world where Evelyn is dead and she's talking through her urn. And they're like, it's your fault that this shit happened.
Okay.
It's like, okay.
Well, it would have fit in with the movie, so I get it.
Especially with the rock scene and everything.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Then there was one where it was a movie within a movie called Spaghetti Baby Noodle Boy.
Okay.
It was the saddest story about a noodle. It was a elbow noodle who wasn't accepted by his spaghetti mother. I was like,
I like that.
Okay. And it
don't write it. Don't fucking make it a full length film. Just give them time.
Yeah.
And then
series.
Yeah, right. And then originally at the end of the movie, after Evelyn and Joy kind of make up, they all stand in the parking lot and start singing Barbie Girl.
Okay.
So it all like comes around.
Full circle. Yeah.
And that's it. That is everything, everywhere, all at once. All right, everybody. It's me in the future. Sorry, I completely forgot to read the comments that you all left for the episode. And so I'm doing it now, and I'm just going to squeeze it all in. So it might sound a little different, but I just wanted to get this in here. Our first comment is from Cinema Trip Reviews, our good friend Wyatt, who said, can't wait for this one of my favorite flicks of 2022. Our next one is from Nerd Revert. Third act limps across the finish line, and it could have easily been 20 to 30 minutes shorter. That being said, I still gave it a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. See, even if it's not a fully perfect movie for somebody, it can still get a high score. I mean, there's a lot of movies that don't coherently make it through the whole thing, at least, as your opinion on a movie, and it still can be top tier. And the final one is from 3 Guys and a Flick, at Guys Flick on Twitter. Just watched last weekend, felt there were a lot of Douglas Adam type themes in the movie, including the idea of the infinite probability drive. Even the title seems reminiscent of life, the universe, and everything. Would love to hear any connections discussed. Unfortunately, we didn't discuss that. I read the article and we weren't able to fit it into the conversation. We do our things in the beginning where we talk about like some of the behind the scenes and some of the things with the creators and actors and stuff like that. Going deep into stuff like that, if it's something that I read into, beforehand, it'll make it into the episode. Unfortunately, I to be honest, I forgot to mention this article, but I apologize. But also check out the article. Check out the Douglas Adams themes, and it was a really cool article and really cool discussion. So I'm sorry we didn't get to discuss it in the episode, but I thank you for leaving a comment. So yeah, thank you for leaving the comments. I'm going to be putting everybody's Twitter handles into the show notes and video description, so you can follow all those wonderful people. All right, back to the video. Gerald,
There you go.
it was an absolute pleasure having you on, and we're definitely going to have you on again because this was a lot of fun.
Thanks, man.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, it was a blast. Thanks, guys. I'm bummed Dan didn't like the movie a little bit more, but it sounds like there's parts that he definitely enjoyed. So,
Yes.
hopefully you guys enjoyed the ride. I mean, this is one of my favorite movies of the past year, so I'm glad to kind of spread that out there into the world. But thanks for having me on to talk about it. You guys can find me anywhere you find podcasts, and it's just 2 Peas on a podcast. That's TWO spelled out. And I'm trying to get folks over to my YouTube channel, so please subscribe over there and check out all my movie reviews and other stuff I'm doing for award season. And it's just youtube.com/2 Peas on a podcast. And again, that's TWO spelled out. And I'm on social media everywhere, Twitter, whatever you guys want to do. I'll hit you back. So thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. I just want to say, watch everything that Gerald puts out on the YouTube channel, but please watch his reaction to Evil Dead Rise, because it was amazing. So many amazing reactions. I laughed out loud on one of the reactions. It was great.
Oh, God, that's the best trailer I've seen in a long time. It really shook me. Yeah,
I have not seen that. Surprisingly, I have not watched that trailer. I've been like, we need to watch it. We need to watch that. I just keep forgetting to watch it.
Dude, it looks so good. Like I'm a huge fan of that franchise. I'm a little biased, but I don't know. I just thought it was going to be okay, and maybe it will be. I don't know. But after seeing the trailer, I'm just like, holy shit, this looks like the fucking best thing I've seen in like 50 years. Like, it just looks great. So I'm really excited for it. And yeah, what Brett's talking about is kind of like my real first time reaction to that, because I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe how good this looks. So, but thanks, Brett. Those are kind words, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Make sure Gerald runs probably the best top 5 podcast out there, so you won't be disappointed listening to his show.
Thanks, man.
Not a problem. All of his links will be down in the description or in the show notes, so if you miss it, all the links will be down there. Next week, guys, we're going back to the Alien universe. We're going to be talking about the 1992 Alien 3. Boy, oh boy, what a ride.
It's David Fincher, right?
Yes, his directorial debut.
How well did he do?
You gotta wait and see. But we got some other amazing guests coming up, which is very exciting. Like I said, Gerald will be back at some point to talk about whatever he wants to talk about again. And you can find all of our links down in the description. You know where we are because you're either listening to us or watching us. So, clearly you're already subscribed, right? Okay. Just wanted to look into the audience's eyes as I say that. Make sure to rate and review our show on any of the podcast services you listen to us on. It helps us greatly. Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, all those fun podcast apps. There's a freaking 1,000 of them. So wherever you listen, make sure to be nice and give us that. This has been a fun ride. This was actually my notes, I guess, were a lot better than I expected for this movie, because I was expecting it to be a shit show. Note wise, our show is always a roller coaster ride, and I'm happy that Gerald got to hopefully you enjoyed the ride.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, you did a great job, man. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. All right, guys. Before I start rambling some more, we'll see y'all next time. I am Brett Parker. That is Dan and Angela of DNA Gaming. And that is Gerald of Two Peas on a podcast. This has been the Dissect That Film podcast, episode 90. We'll see y'all again next time. Bye-bye.